Thanks for clicking on the video. Like, subscribe, and share if you find this interesting or useful. Okay, in the last video, I gave you this model and we copy-pasted the final object and edited it and modified it. And I was trying to show that a complex structure built in Silk can be reused. Today, we're going to start from the bottom and rebuild the entire model. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a single one of these control sketches. That's 3 lines right here. That's one sketch, these 3 lines. Then we're going to build a single control polygon, a single curve. We're going to put cut points on the one curve, and then we're going to cut it up into little pieces, these pieces being what we need in order to do the blending. Okay, let's get started. So there is no file to download for this first one because we're starting from scratch. But after I finish this video and I finish this model, I will make the model we built today available for the next video, for the next step. Okay. So I just created a new object, and the first thing we need is a sketch, but it has to be a sketch from the Sketcher workbench. Do not use part design. You can use part design later when you have made an entire model, but not at the beginning. So I have a shortcut right here, a little shortcut bar. But to start, if you don't have the shortcut bar, go to the Sketcher workbench, create a sketch. Draw 3 lines and make them very similar to what I just did. You should make it as similar as possible so that you can follow along with what I'm doing. Close the sketch. Before we do anything else, select the sketch, go to Property View, View tab, go all the way at the bottom and set Hide Dependent to False. I have this set by default in entire FreeCAD, but if you don't, just make this one sketch, Hide Dependent False. And let me show you why. I'm going to select the sketch, go back to the Silk workbench, create a control polygon. Control polygon is underneath the sketch. That's why we didn't see anything, but that's fine. Leave both visible. Select the control polygon, put a curve on it. Now, because hide dependent is false, when I edit this sketch, the objects downstream, the control poly and the curve, also update. This is really important when working with Silk. You're not supposed to know what the curve will look like just from 3 lines, and you don't have to. You create the sketch of 3 lines, you control polygon, control curve, and now you can edit the sketch in a meaningful way. We're going to copy paste this sketch a lot, and we're going to remap the endpoints. Every time we copy it, we're going to attach the endpoints to something else. So the distance and the rotation between these points is going to change a lot. So we need to constrain this so that it moves in a predictable way. First thing is I'm going to add a line from beginning to end. Now right now the sketch has 4 lines. If I drag this out, Silk gets confused because it was expecting 3 lines here. All we have to do is take the new line we created and make it a construction geometry line. And now everything updates again. Okay, let's keep editing. What properties do we want this sketch to have when we drag it around? Well, I want this line to stay parallel to this line. I want that to be true no matter what I do. That way it'll prevent the lines from crossing the center. I also want the beginning and the end to be equal. And I want to have a default distance between one of the points and the overall line. So I'm going to select the line, 1 point, hit D for dimension. I'm going to make this 20. All right. This is actually what we would have almost ideally and then copy paste it, but there's a problem with it that when we remap it to something else, it's going to behave a little bit unpredictably. You see how the center distance doesn't scale with the edges, so I'm going to take one side length and the center, and I'm going to make that also equal. This is pretty good because now when I drag these points around, it stays parallel, and these three lines maintain a good proportion. And if I grab by this line, I can move the whole thing easily, and if I drag one point, I can rotate it. To make it extra stable, I'm also going to add a dimension to this part here and make it 100. Okay, that's it. We're done with this sketch. We can move it around pretty easily. We can rotate it pretty easily. This is a good default sketch. I'm going to close, VF to center the view, and I'm going to go ahead and hide these two objects for now. And now we're going to put point on curve objects along the curve, and this is going to be to cut it. Before we can cut it, we need to define the endpoint. So there's going to be a start point and an end point. Sometimes you click on the line and it won't allow you to put the point. Just click off and click it again. Okay, so now let's take our time and organize this. This is going to be a start point, and I want this to be 0, 0, 0. FreeCAD does automatic numbering, and we want to take advantage of that, especially in the library of utilities for all the objects we're going to copy paste a lot. It's nice to have a good consistent numbering going on. So, okay, so we did the start, the end, then we're going to do the cut, start, make that 0 as well. Then we're going to do cut, end, and make that 0 as well. Let's actually set the values, because right now this is not at the beginning and this is not at the end. This is flexible because there are some situations where we will want to play around with this, but for the purpose of the object we're building today, we want the start point to be at 0 and the end point to be at 1. 0 means the start of the curve, 1 means the end of the curve. The cut start we're going to put at 0.25. That's a great default value to start things with. Please use this value. So this was 0.25 from 0, and on the other side we want also 0.25 but from 1. So that's 1 minus 0.25 is 0.75. Something that's going to happen a lot as we model is going to say, oh, this one is the same as this one. 0.25 is the same as 0.75. It's not technically true, but what we mean is that it's 0.25 away from the corner it is intended to cut. Okay, so now let's cut. I select the curve, and actually let's do this in the tree, because selecting things in the tree and having good names really pays off when the model gets complicated. I select the curve, the start point, and the cut start point, and I hit this tool, Control Poly Force Segment. And this creates, I'm going to hide the curve, this creates a control polygon just for this piece of the curve. Let me show the curve again, select the curve, go from the cut start to the cut end, and put another segment polygon. So it gives me the middle portion. Select the curve, select the cut end, and select the end. That gives me the last section. Okay, I'm going to leave the curve hidden. So pick the first segment polygon, put a curve on it. Second segment polygon, put a curve on it. Third segment polygon, put a curve on it. Okay, now select the segments and hide them. Now we have 3 independent pieces of the curve. And that's what we're going to need to be able to blend surfaces. The default colors of all these curves is the same as the overall curve. And that's fine because these are all actually the same type of object, but we're using them differently. So I want to color code them to reflect that we're using them differently. Select the beginning, select the end, go to View, Line Color. The default was this one. We're going to make it darker. And we're going to leave it at a size of 1. But the middle here, we're going to keep the color, but we're going to give it a line width of 2. We will see why later. Okay, so let's go back to our sketch real quick and play around. Everything updates. So now I have cut my curve in 3 pieces along these 2 points. Okay, go back to top view. Now the points that are cut, being red and being of size 8 is fine. That's a reasonable default. But the start and the end are going to interfere with the sketch itself, and they're going to be hard to see. So let's make them bigger. Let's go to 15. Most of the time we're not going to look at them, but the few times we need to look at them, we want to be able to see them correctly. And then the start, I'm going to give it a point color, black. And then the end, I'm going to give it a point color of gray. I don't have gray in here. I'm going to select black and drag this up to 170. Okay, so now I have black as a start, gray is the end. And the reason these are different is because we're going to connect a bunch of these curves together. So there's always going to be a gray on top of a black, or at least most of the time there's going to be a gray on top of a black. We need to be able to very easily hide all the endpoints to make sure we're only working with the start points, or the reverse. We just need to be consistent, whichever way we do. Okay, so now we have all the elements that make up a standard curve that we want to copy paste. So I'm going to make a folder, and I'm going to call this curve 3 seg for 3 segments. I'm going to type 3L because they were made out of 3L sketches. See right here, this control poly 3L. And then I'm going to call that 0, 0, 0. I'm going to grab everything and drag it in here. Now, when it drags, make sure that things didn't get out of order. And this looks good. I have the sketch, control polygon, cubic curve, all the points, the split segments, and then the split curves. Okay. Let's improve the names a little bit. Everything here is fine, except this one. I'm gonna steal this name, go to this sketch, apply it, but instead of being free segment, this is going to be a control sketch 3L 0, 0. Control sketch 3L, then a control polygon, cubic curve, and all the rest. And this is something that is worth copy pasting. So I hit control copy, make sure that this is unselected, make sure that this is unselected, hit OK. Control V. And now when I take this guy, I can go to its sketch, and here I have another one. And I'll be able, when I have a layout that I'm attaching things to, let's say I had already attached this to a layout, I'll be able to drag it around and map each individual curve to the layout. And I'll always want to connect the start point of the next curve to the end point of the previous curve. So this is why we need these points bigger and the color coding. All right, so in the next tutorial, I'll give you this file and we'll copy it a bunch of times and we'll make an entire section. And then after that, we'll be able to copy paste the entire section.